Hello everyone, hi, this is Abhishek, your chemistry teacher, and now we are going to start the session with this decomposition reaction using electrolysis. Now, decomposition reaction, we know that a substance is to be broken into other two or three components. Now, here we are just doing the decomposition with electrolysis. What is electrolysis? Electrolysis is a process by which the reactant part, in this case, this substance is used as a reactant, which is being placed with the electrolyte in this electrolysis process. And whenever you will pass the electricity through the substance, it will be broken into its constituent components, that is of hydrogen and oxygen for the first case. Now let me tell you the process in detail as you can understand. In electrolysis, what happened? We are just using that kind of container. Here, there are the two test tubes are placed over there. Okay. In that test tubes, there are the carbon rods are there, and these carbon rods are connected with the power supply. As you can see here, that one of the carbon rod is connected with the positive terminal of the battery, another carbon rod is connected with the negative terminal of the battery. Now here we are just using any kind of salt solution, okay, and when the electricity is getting passed through the salt solution, and with the salt solution the water is also present over there. As I have said, it's a salt solution. So whenever you are passing the electricity, so there is the decomposition reaction is to be done, and in these two test tubes we are getting the hydrogen gas and the oxygen gas separately. But the question is, how it is happened? As I have said that when the decomposition reaction is done using electrolysis, the water is to be broken into two of its ions. In hydrogen ion, that means it will be broken in hydrogen ion and oxygen ion. Hydrogen ion is positive, it is known as cation. Oxygen ion is negative, it is known as anion. And in this case, we just come to know that in these two test tubes, there are the two carbon rods which are connected to with two different terminals of a battery. So they will attract the opposite ions. So in this way, in these two test tubes, we will get oxygen and hydrogen separately. Now in the second case that we are using the sodium chloride, the same thing we are just doing here also. That means whenever we are passing the electricity through the sodium chloride solution, we are getting the sodium ion and the chlorine ion separately. By depositing them in separate test tubes, we are able to get sodium and chlorine. Now in the third case, we are using aluminum oxide. So whenever you are passing the electricity through the solution of aluminum oxide, it is also broken in ions, aluminum ion and oxygen ion. Now whenever you are getting two different ions, positive ion and negative ion, so obviously I have said that they are being attracted by the carbon rods that are present in this test tubes. So you are getting the aluminum and the oxygen gas separately. So I hope you have understood the decomposition reaction using the electrolysis. You don't have to remember the technique by which the electrolysis is done. No one will ask you the process. Just you have to remember that which substances are participating in electrolysis reactions. That means the decomposition using electrolysis. About electrolysis, more we will discuss in the chapter of metals and nonmetals about the extraction of aluminium. Now, in the next case, there is a decomposition using light. So whenever I have just told you that whenever you are doing the decomposition using light, so obviously in this case you are using the sunlight, right? So if you have a china dish at your home and if you place the sodium chloride here, suppose this is the sodium chloride that I have placed here. Okay, this is the sodium chloride I have placed here, and this is the sunlight. I'm not able to make the sun properly. Suppose we are assuming this is the sunlight which is incidenting on this china dish, or you can say which is incidenting on the silver chloride that I have placed here. So whenever you will place the silver chloride in china dish and you are keeping them in sunlight for some amount of time, then you will get there some decomposition reaction is done automatically, and you are getting the silver and chlorine gas separately. Similarly, if you place silver bromide in presence, if you place the silver bromide in china dish and if you keep them for a very small amount of time in presence of sunlight, you will see that there some decomposition reaction is done, and you are getting the silver and bromine separately. You just have to remember the substances who are participating in decomposition reaction. The separate substance, that means AgCl and AgBr, that means silver chloride and silver bromide, they can only be decomposed using sunlight. They can't be decomposed using that electrolysis process. So some specific substances are being decomposed by some specific process. You just have to remember that. Now we are just proceeding the effect of oxidation reaction in our everyday life. Now we know that what is corrosion. Corrosion is the process in which the metals are reacting with the moisture or with the air actually, and it is forming the oxide. That means the substance is getting oxidized, right? Actually, the main example for the corrosion that can be taken as iron. So whenever the iron is reacting with oxygen and some moisture, you can say some water molecule. In this case, I have written 2xH2O. X means how much water molecule is reacting with the iron, I don't know. Okay, suppose if you are keeping that iron for a very long amount of time, so in that case, the amount of moisture that will react with the iron, that will be greater. So that's why I have written X only. The value of X can be anything. It depends on the time, that how much water molecules that are reacting with the iron. So in presence of oxygen, whenever the iron is reacting with the moisture, it is forming some hydrated iron oxide. The hydrated iron oxide is having the formula that is of Fe2O3 XH2O. There the dot I have just given here. Okay, thus the formula is not actually the oxide you are getting. There the iron, with the iron oxide you are getting some moisture also. That is the formula for this rusting of this iron metal, and this phenomena is known as corrosion. Now we are just proceeding up. Now the next portion is rancidity. What is rancidity? It is also one type of oxidation of food materials which contains the fats and oils. So whenever the food materials are kept in here for a very long amount of time, their taste and their smell getting unpleasant, they getting changed from their original flavor. So whenever you are just getting that kind of smell, whenever you are having that kind of taste, so you can say that the food is getting rancid, and this total phenomena is actually the rancidity, right? So rancidity, that it can be prevented whenever you are using some antioxidant to foods, right, which contains the fats and oils, which prohibit the food materials to get oxidized. Second thing you can do, that you can keep that food in presence of nitrogen gas. As you know that the packets of Lay's, Kurkure and other chips packets, in that chips packet the nitrogen gas is getting filled. Initially we just know that why they are just having that packet with a lot of air that is present in that packets. Obviously we are just thinking that they are just betraying us, or they are just making us fool by giving small amount of food, small amount of Lays, small amount of chips and so on. But that is not the reason. More and more amount of nitrogen gas is filled over there, thus the food becomes good. Their original smell and their original taste, that remains same. That's why. The third point, that is the rancidity can be retarded or it can be prevented if you keep your food in a refrigerator. In a refrigerator, if you keep any kind of oily food or any kind of food which contains the fats and oils, it remain good for 2 to 3 days. Okay. Now the fourth point you can see, that if you can store the food in airtight containers where the air is not able to react with the food materials, then the food can be good. And the last point, that if you are keeping your food away from the light, then also you can prevent your food to get oxidized. So at this point of time, the rancidity concept is finished. The questions that may come in your exam, that what is rancidity, how can I prevent rancidity, that means how can I prevent the food materials to get oxidized. Now at this point of time we are just finishing this session. If you are having any of the doubts, any of the problems, you can just call me, you can just text me. Okay guys, thank you so much.